We have moved into the new flat. However, things did not go according to plan, but let's start at the beginning. If you're new here, hi, I'm Tally. I normally make historically inspired clothes, but recently we've bought a Victorian tenement flat at the Scottish seaside and we've started sharing the renovation process with you guys. Also, if you haven't seen the video about restoring the Victorian floorboards yet, I would suggest to start there just because it makes a little bit more sense in the way I tell the story here. So we have completely moved in. We obviously still haven't done any of the painting or any of the decorating properly. All of our furniture is here, all of the lights are on, everything's fine, but it was hard work to get here. So the last week we've spent packaging up everything we own in our old flat, and we had to work the days before the move, so we actually had to have everything packaged up way in advance, which was quite annoying because we were just living out of boxes. It was really quite sad leaving the flat because I still feel like I like our old flat. It is just that we've outgrown it. But we owned the flat when we got married, when we got Archie. It just feels like it was our first proper home together, so leaving it was bittersweet. So the night before the big move, we came here because we were trying to install a thermostat because the boiler was working. You could turn it on and off, but you just couldn't really set it to a certain temperature because the old thermostat wasn't working. So we came in with a new thermostat and tried to isolate the boiler and find out which of the fuses was responding to the boiler. And in the process of flicking the switches off, Jack turned multiple ones off. And then once we found the boiler, he turned them back on, but the lights wouldn't come back on. So that was already a very good start. So I was just lying on the hallway floor, staring at the dark ceiling that was just illuminated by the light coming from the clothes, listening to Jack curse at the fuse box, and I felt like that was just a new low. I was just wondering, what have we gotten ourselves into? So the end of the story was we couldn't fix it that day. We just had to leave the flat dark and cold on the night, return to our old flat and finish the packing up, dismantle the bed and get everything ready for the movers to come the next morning. When the movers appeared, that brought the next issue because we were talking to the company beforehand on the phone and we were saying we've got a 2-bedroom moving into a 3-bedroom, but we have a lot of furniture, a lot of things, and it's probably closer to a 3-bedroom that we have furniture for. And they said that's fine. If we have to do a second run, we can do it on the day. It's just going to be the afternoon then and we'll just see how it works out. But the movers came and they saw our massive bookshelves, the big boxes that were all really heavy, the cast iron fireplace, the cast iron sewing machine, and they were like... So they said time-wise they could do 2 runs in a day, but just physically they wouldn't be able to carry all of that up in one day. So we had to split the move over 2 days. So we then told them to prioritize the bed because we needed somewhere to sleep that night. And they started loading up the van and we went over to the new flat and just got the pets over and tried to just get everything ready for the furniture to come. Unfortunately, what they didn't bring was the lamps. So once all the furniture was in, we still didn't have any light. So we then decided to go back to the old flat and get all the lamps over just so we would have a little bit of light to work with. We took Archie with us, but we left Tilly in the flat, and she had been quite brave about the whole thing. She's been like exploring the bay window and she was really excited. So we thought it would be fine. And we did check everywhere to make sure the windows were closed. There were no kind of like holes in the floor anywhere where she could escape. We closed all of the doors where there were like messes in rooms that we didn't want her to get into. So she just had the living room and the bedroom to roam. But she's like fine by herself, so we didn't really think about it. Went back to the old flat, got the lamps, tried to get them into our car, which is not massive, so this one here was actually a nightmare. And when we unloaded it, we realized that the head had broken off. So not ideal, because this is our biggest lamp. So brought everything upstairs, already a little bit disheartened over having broken the lamp. Came in and called for Tilly, and she wasn't there. So this isn't normal. She usually comes to the door, but we thought, you know, maybe a new flat, maybe she's just like sleeping a lot. But obviously it was dark, so we just had our torches and were running through the flat shouting for her, and she would not come out. And there were only so many places she could be. Double checking that none of the windows were open, that we didn't miss anything, but we just couldn't find her. I should say she's fine before we start worrying. It was not a good moment for us because it took way too long and we were just like shouting and getting really panicky. And at that point, I didn't think she had escaped. I was more expecting that she had maybe gotten herself into like a plastic bag or something that we didn't realize we left out, or that she had just gotten a heart attack or something over being left in this place by herself. But eventually I ripped the covers off the bed and she was just like tucked in underneath the covers, and she never does that, and she was just rolled up. And I just like on the spot started crying and held her in my arms. That was like my baby. So she must have either been really cold because obviously the thermostat still wasn't working, or genuinely just have thought that we had abandoned her, which honestly broke my heart. But she was fine. We had found the cat. We had brought some lamps in. We then tried to fix this lamp and tried to screw the bit that had broken off back in. And by trying to do so, we then dropped the bulb onto the floor and the glass splattered everywhere, and we hadn't brought the Hoover yet. So I tried to pick up all the glass shards so the pets wouldn't get into it. Cut into my finger. There was blood everywhere. Yeah, so it wasn't a good day. Let's just say that. So we went to bed. We just like call it a night. But then I woke up the next morning and I saw the sun rise over the Clyde, and it was just so beautiful, and it was like a sign that things were just meant to get better from here. So in the morning, the electrician came and he checked out the fuse box and the lights, because we were already a little bit worried that we'd have to rewire the entire place, especially considering that the floor guys ended up doing the additional room and all of the repairs, so they ended up charging twice as much. And the movers ended up doing 2 days and also charged twice. So we weren't that eager to get the entire place rewired as well. Luckily, the electrician said it seemed like the fuse box, which was ancient, was the problem rather than the lights themselves, because we also hadn't put any new lights in, so that it wasn't like any of our lights were tripping the fuse box. It was just that it seemed the fuse itself was broken. So he suggested he'd come back the next day with a new fuse box and put that in. So the movers came and brought the rest of the furniture. They weren't overly happy carrying the cast iron fireplace up to the 3rd floor, but they managed to get everything up. So we finally had all of our furniture here. Then it was just a matter of unpacking everything. I started out with the kitchen because I felt like that had the biggest urgency, because I just wasn't able to do anything in there. Because it seems like it's maybe the same size as our old kitchen, but it also has the washing machine in the kitchen. So that just makes it smaller probably already. And then there was obviously the whole issue around the fridge not being in the kitchen. So we moved the oven up all the way in that cupboard, ripped out all of the shelves and put them back into places where it made sense, so that we created a space underneath for a small fridge. Now, having the oven up quite high is controversial, and we've had a lot of family members saying that it's not the best choice, which we know it is not our first choice either, but it was the only way we could somehow fit a fridge in here. And also, ever since I got the air fryer, I rarely use the oven, so for now it's fine. Obviously, we're not overly keen on the kitchen anyways, and we're planning to renovate it, so we just have to make it somewhat functional, maybe give it a lick of paint just so it's not turquoise anymore, and it should be fine for a little bit. But then as I packed stuff away, I realized there was actually more space in the kitchen than there has been in our old kitchen. Because of the way it's shaped, it's not just a narrow corridor, so I can be doing stuff in the kitchen and Jack can also come in and do stuff, which is nice because previously, whenever I was cooking, I'd have to leave the kitchen for him to be able to go in. And there's even the space on the side for the bin to not just be in a cupboard, but be outside, which, even though I really don't like the way the kitchen looks, I'm actually surprised with that it's not that bad. It's again not my dream kitchen, but it's actually functional and fine, so that's a good surprise. And then the electrician man came and put in a new fuse box and the lights started working again, and I was just so relieved because the night before I had just cooked with like a little lamp and my phone torch. And then the boiler man came and put the thermostat in, so we could actually tell the boiler to go to like 20 degrees rather than just having it on or off. So things were slowly starting to get better. Oh, and wait, did I mention that we had a new washing machine installed? No, because I think this happened right after I finished editing this video. Well, I was too worried to do it by ourselves, even though Jack was like, no, we can install a washing machine. So we got a plumber in to do it. And then I ran it today and I was like, this is exciting, you know, this is great. And then just to double check, everything was fine because the mains were kind of a little bit dodgy. So I looked under the kickboards and realized there was a leak. So Jack was working, so I then ended up having to unscrew one of the cabinets to pull the washing machine out, because the guy who installed it had to push it in with like all his strength and I couldn't get it out, and I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like an ongoing drip. So pulled out the washing machine. No idea where the leak is coming from. It's quite a bit of water, so let us just pray that those pressed wood floorboards they put underneath the laminate soaked it all up and it's not going into the neighbor's ceiling. Quick update, the plumber man installed the waste pipe wrong and that's where the leak was coming from, and we were able to solve the issue ourselves, but I have been too terrified to try washing a load by myself again, so I'm going to try again when Jack's home so this doesn't happen again. But that brings us to the state we're currently in. So I'm still unpacking lots of things and we're just trying to figure out, you know, what paints to use, what things to do, how much money is left and what can be done next, because we'd really like to have the fireplace installed, but the hole that is in the wall is actually really small. It wouldn't fit any fireplace, so I'm not really sure what's happening there. So we'll have to get some fireplace people out, make sure everything's safe, and then hammer a massive hole into the wall for the fireplace to be fitted in. We're still not 100% sure it's actually possible, so if any of the movers are watching this, yeah, we're definitely going to make it work. You didn't carry up that fireplace for nothing. So for now, we've decided to move the bed into the yellow room. We were kind of thinking of using the green room for the bedroom originally, but it's got single glazed windows and the flat is really cold with how high the ceilings are. So we've just decided to make the yellow room the bedroom because it's got double glazing. And then that leaves the blue and the green room. So Jack's got the green room for himself now and I've got the blue room for myself. So he's making himself like a manly dressing room that he's always been dreaming of, because he just loves having everything in its place, which in the old flat we just couldn't do. Whereas I'm going to use the blue room for my sewing room because obviously I'll still mainly be sewing as my occupation. So I need a space for that. And then in the future, if we move the kitchen, we'll think about where it goes, but we'll have to save up some money before we can do that anyways, so we're just going to use the flat as it is currently. So the first room I'm going to tackle is obviously the living room, because it's the room that we're going to spend the most time in. But it's a little bit of a like, this has to happen before that can happen. And also I need to repair the bookshelf, because before we used the big bookshelf as the TV stand. So we had to put a hole into the back to get the cables through, which is really not pretty. And now it's got this massive empty space. So I've ordered 2 shelves to be put in to make it a full bookshelf, but they're obviously not going to be the right color, so I'll have to stain it myself. So all of this is going to happen in the next video, including choosing colors. And I've been thinking about this so much. I already mentioned this in the previous video. So I finally have all of my colors on the wall, and I'll show you the choices and we'll talk about what I think I'll go with. So when I first put the colors on, I was immediately drawn to the olive color from Little Green, which just felt like the proper green in the first moment. But then also, when I took the sample back to my old flat, I realized it was exactly the same color as our old living room, which is funny because obviously I was like, we can't just use the same color. But also, the more I looked at it, the more I felt like, because this room is so much brighter, as you can tell, as the sun is now slowly coming through, it felt like it was a bit too saturated, because in the old flat, the green was never really properly illuminated. I'm not a very bright person, so I then started looking at the other colors, and most of the sages are too blue for me. So I still preferred something that was more olive in color, but a bit more muted. And then one of the underdogs that I didn't even consider in the first moment, which was Dibbler from Farrow & Ball, suddenly started standing out. And I feel like next to all of the greens, it looked very brown. But I saw this picture of it online. I started thinking maybe if I separate this color from all the other greens, it starts looking more green. So that's what I then did on a different wall. Just kidding. I actually realized that the Dibber color from Farrow & Ball was too brown after all in some lights. So I then ended up buying more greens, which I will tell you about in the next video. And I will tell you which one I actually ended up choosing. Yay! But with that all out of the way, enough talking. I'll do a little flat tour with you guys. And please bear in mind, we haven't properly unpacked yet. We haven't painted anything. There are a lot of paint samples on the walls, but we haven't actually started anything. The flat is a mess. There is the washing machine in the middle of the hallway. It is so old that I was actually surprised when I first saw it, so that's why we needed a new one. But yeah, everything is just very much in progress currently and not finished, but I'm already starting to feel like this place is going to be such a nice home. And I love the way the living room is arranged currently, the way that the couch is in the middle of the room and then the bookshelf is going to be behind it. I see the potential. Also, just to be very clear, I did not clean up for you guys. That is just what the flat looks like. It's not the final result, it's definitely far from it, but you get the idea of where our furniture is going, and then we obviously have to do the painting and more renovating, deal with cables, deal with the fireplace, and eventually this will hopefully become a really lovely home. And as I'm editing this video, I feel the urge to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the TV over the fireplace. So when I posted this on Instagram, someone said this should be on Reddit TV's Too High. And yeah, I mean, I'm all with you here. It is too high, but then also I didn't really want to have a TV stand over there because this is like a nice sitting area. And over there, we've got the door that kind of opens up into it. So really, this was the only place. And in the end, it's just a TV and I barely ever use it anyway. So it's going to get a frame. It's just going to have like lots of pictures around it. And it's just going to look like a gallery wall. And yeah, I don't actually really care that much. If I want to watch something, most likely I'll watch it on my laptop. That is what we're going to do in the next video. So I've already talked about all the things I want to do to the living room, but in the next video, we're actually going to do it. Also, I need to mention, because you might have seen in me showing you the entire house tour, that many of the curtains that I put up, because the old curtains are ancient and they're filthy and they're very 80s and I didn't like them. But the ones I brought in from the old flat are way too short. Because the old flat was like half a meter lower than the new flat. Everything is just too short, but it works for now. Curtains that are extra long are very expensive. So that's again one of those things I'll do in the future maybe, but for now it works. And talking about wallpaper, we were also considering whether we should strip the wallpaper from all roofs, because I don't know if you can see this, but there is a texture to every single wall. And I hate textured wallpaper. But also it is such a massive effort to get the wallpaper of every single wall. And with these old buildings, chances are, if there's wallpaper everywhere, that they're trying to hide something. So if we rip the wallpaper off, there's a really good chance we might have to replaster every single room. So I think for now, we'll just leave the wallpaper as it is. Anyways, that is us settled into the new flat. So I will keep you updated on how things are going. Next video is going to be the living room renovation, which is obviously the priority, decorating it and making it feel cozy and green. And in the meantime, I will bring new sewing content. But with everything happening, I haven't really been able to sew, so I can't promise that there's going to be a new video next week. But I'll try my best bringing new content every week. And I hope I'll see you in my next video. And obviously, if you like this, if you want to see more renovation content, if you want to hear about all of the other things that break and fail, make sure to subscribe so you can see all of the upcoming renovation disasters. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.